We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Ron. I got a big old picture here with an X in it, and I think the X is a ceiling fan.
That's right. It was a reminder. So
reminder.
Reminder diagram of his room. He's got a big old ceiling fan over top.
There's an OM, and there should be a T, and he's Xing me out. That's what I'm seeing here. I don't appreciate it, Ron. All right, Ron. Following our advice a couple of weeks ago, Ron wasted no time spending his $6,000 budget. You know, this may be the first time I've ever thought about the fact that people are spending multiple thousands of dollars based on what we say. It's a little intimidating. You know, that's a little intimidating. That we have
man, if I were buying
power.
the gear that we recommend, I'd be happy. So
I know. I would be thrilled. I want to go live with Byron.
Yeah.
Anyways, he ordered the Aperion Intimus 5B bookshelf speakers and SVS Prime Elevation speakers to try them both out. So far, he's preferring the SVS, but that's due to mostly to their smaller sizes and included mounts, and because he says the actual sound is very similar between the two. He ordered an SVS PC2000 and Marantz SR6011 and Epson 5040 UB projector. In getting all this new stuff set up, he has a few more questions. First of all,
there you go. I mean,
you got some
we
good
laid
gear.
out. We laid out the stuff that he could buy with his $6,000 budget, and he's like, "That sounds good." He bought pretty much all of it.
We know what we need to do. We need to set up like an Amazon store.
Well, of course.
Where we just send you the link. Like, you press this, and then fills up your basket, and then we get some sort of cut.
That's what the affiliate program was. People have suggested that to you multiple times, but it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And I'd rather just give the advice and let you guys do it yourselves.
I know, right?
I know, it's like throwing money away. I understand, but there's a big part of me that believes that the minute this podcast starts making like real money, it's going to just implode.
Makes real. When is this podcast ever going to make real money?
Never. The way we're going. But
the instant we make any money, people are going to be like, "Oh, you're only talking about that product because you make money off of it." So
exactly right.
Have to avoid that.
Exactly right. And that's I'm like, I don't know how to avoid it. All right. About the elevation speakers, if he mounts them so they're angled down toward the seats, would that make them too directional for how surrounds are supposed to sound? No.
Nope.
There we go. I answered that one. Going on.
Yeah, so I mean, since he's talking about the surround speaker, so he had these two positions. He was thinking maybe he'd have surrounds and surround backs, but the surround backs weren't really where surround backs should be.
Right.
So the surround positions that he has are more or less directly to the left and right of his couch. So he's just like, if I go with the prime elevations, they have this angle built in.
Yeah.
He can't really angle them forward or backward.
No.
So he just put them on the wall, up a little high. They'd be angled down, aiming right at the ears. That's fine. That's
perfect.
Look at any of the surrounds in an actual movie theater. They are angled down at the audience.
That's what you want. They're
same thing.
Just going to be fine. That's exactly perfect. What speaker wire should he buy for 25 to 30 foot run, and what banana plugs should he get to go with it? Now remember, you're only putting the banana plugs on the receiver end. You're not putting them on the speaker end because you won't be able to fit them because you're mounting them to the wall.
Oh, right, yeah.
I do want to address. I did this. I don't overbuy banana plugs. I had a whole bunch of them. He said he's preferring the SVS, but due mostly to their smaller size and included mounts. I want to say that if you had actually said, I kind of like the way the Aperions sound better, but I like the form factor and the ease of use of these SVSs more, which one should I buy? I would probably say to buy the SVSs anyways. Because I think that people get too hung up on, well, this sounds just a little bit better, so I got to go get it. Even though it's way too big for my space and I'm going to have to reconfigure my entire home theater, I'm like, no, dude, what you got is good. This is good. This is just a little bit better.
And you're not going to be A/B comparing them on a daily basis.
Once you put them in your room, you're going to love them. So I think that's great. 25 to 30 foot run. There's going to be a lot of people out there with a lot of advice about speaker wire. Cheapest wire you can find that's reasonable. But I would say something like 12 gauge just to be safe. I mean, you could go 10.
I mean, 14 gauge would be absolutely. 16 gauge would be fine. For
That's
30
what
feet.
I
You're
mean,
never gonna hear it.
never going to hear it.
You can talk about calculating how much resistance is in that length of wire at 16 gauge and going, oh, there's a possibility that at 47 kilohertz there might be a slight bit of attenuation. Like, you're never going to hear it. Never going to hear it. So, I mean, 16 gauge and, the number gets lower, but the gauge gets thicker. So 16, 14, 12 would all be absolutely fine.
Now, Rob and I are going to disagree on the banana plugs. Right. I like the banana plugs where you manually screw them down and it spreads out the tip so that it locks in place to the point where you could like swing your receiver around on the end of your speaker wire. If the banana plug is not letting go. Don't do what I just said. That would be a fairly poor life decision.
But you can get some of those at Amazon from a company called GLS.
Yes.
They're locking banana plugs. It's $35 for, what is it, 14 pairs?
Something like that. Yeah.
Really not a ton of money for that.
No.
I like Sewell for the simple reason that Sewell has a banana plug called the Strike Banana Plug, which is super quick to install. So that's what I like about those. Yeah. Easier to install, but it's just a spring banana plug. It's just a compression fit that goes in there, so it's not as secure as the locking banana plug, but a little bit cheaper and faster to install. Whatever floats your boat, I'd be happy with either. For the speaker wire, I think since these are going to be mounted on the wall, there's a chance he might be running the wire inside the wall.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Either way, I really like just getting Belden speaker wire. You can get it from Parts Express.
Yep.
It's not very expensive. They have in-wall. They have stuff that you can bury underground outside if you want that. Plenum-rated stuff that you could put through an air return and meets all the fire safety codes. They got every kind that you want at Parts Express from Belden. White jacket, black jacket, whatever you want.
One thing that I often find with plenum-rated speaker wire in particular is it tends not to be too supple.
Right.
Which, if you're trying to shove something through a wall, makes it easier to work with. But if you're just going to be, if you're only
running it around the perimeter of your room,
something like that, it tends to be a kind of a pain to work with. Mm-hmm. So it's just a little stiffer. So know what you're going to do with it, and make sure make sure that you're getting what you want, because you can get like 14, 16 gauge wire, like 1,000 feet of it for like $100, or
well, not quite that cheap, but you can get it for under $1 a foot. So
yeah. So any of those would work, yeah. But I, to be honest with you, dude, you know what I do when I need speaker wire to just do in here? I go and buy the cheapest crap I can find at Home Depot.
Yep,
that's what I do.
My lamp cord absolutely will work.
I just can't be bothered to go through all this hassle. So the HDMI run for the new projector will be about 30 feet. 30 feet for in this HDMI. That's a long way. What cable should he buy? The Red Mirror? Is that the one we're going to go with? Red Mirror?
Yeah, Red Mirror from Monoprice. Again, if this is going to be installed above the ceiling, which I think it might, then you got to make sure that it's rated, right? So
he's already got. Am I thinking about a different dude? Oh yeah, I'm 2 dudes ago. Keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, they got one. Their Cabernet Ultra active high-speed HDMI cable. The 30-foot length is $30. It's really not bad.
But cheap. I spent so much more for mine. I know. I'm so bitter that we could get stuff like this now. I'm like, my HDMI cable is probably 15 feet. It probably costs 3 times that. But
it's CL2 in-wall rated, full 18 gigabits per second bandwidth. So checks all the boxes, and the price is certainly not offensive. So yeah.
Wait, what was I doing? Oh, yeah. Can we suggest a ceiling mount for his Epson 5040 UB projector? I cannot.
Now, one thing was he said this ceiling fan that he has, so he's got this high ceiling, this 10-foot ceiling.
Oh, right. He's got to go low underneath
and
that
the ceiling fan is hanging down 29 inches from that ceiling, he said.
Right. So he needs a pole.
So he needs something that can extend down at least 30 inches, I would say. Maybe a little bit more. So Visual Apex, which is a great place to buy projectors from, they sell a mount that they have commissioned themselves, so it's their branding. It's a Visual Apex mount. It's $59, so that's not too bad. Universal mount can hold, how much does it say? 40 pounds, I think. The 5040 UB is only 25 pounds. Okay. So totally fine there. But it comes with a 32, or it's adjustable, it extends, but up to 32-inch extension from the ceiling.
Nice.
It's perfect. perfect. Great price. Will fit your projector, hold it very securely, and has the extension tube that you need. So Visual Apex, they're self-branded, all-in-one universal ceiling mount for $59.
There you go. As he said before, his room is not light controlled, but he and his wife have decided to try and improve that to give them more options for screen choices. Have you tried putting tint on your windows? Apparently that's a thing. I don't know. I think it's weird. Don't do that. Now, they're now leaning toward a white screen rather than gray. He ordered the projector first to test it out. His walls are taupe, though, so he'll probably use a white sheet for the test. Is there anything else you can do to help him decide which color screen to get? Yes, you should get white. Just get white. Just get white. Don't
worry about it too much.
Don't worry about it too much. Get the white.
I mean, really, all you need to do is don't turn the projector on. Turn off all the lights in your... Have the room the way it's gonna be while you're watching something.
Yeah.
Now, look at your wall. Even though the wall is taupe, doesn't really matter that much. Just look at the wall. How black is it? Because that's as black as ever gonna be.
Right.
Now, your perception when there's something bright there
next to
will make you believe that it's even blacker, but that is as black will be. Now, if that is really not even anything close to a dark gray, going for a gray screen isn't the worst idea in the world still. But if it's reasonably dark, if you go, this is the way I'm going to watch, the projector's not even on, I'm just looking at my wall, and that's pretty darn dark, then white screen is fine.
Yeah, I got these people. I mean, I think there's quite a few people that have contacted this podcast, talking to us about gray screens and light rejecting screens and stuff. That if you turn the lights off in the room that they're using at the time that they would be using it, they would trip and fall over things. I absolutely believe that. And they're like, well, there could be a car that goes by and the light's going to come in the window. I'm like, all right, then, that might happen, and boy, will it take you out of the movie experience. I mean, you were already watching Batman v Superman, and then we were already hating it. So, just go with white, unless, like Rob said, it's just really not dark in there.
Yeah.
So taking our advice and simply casting the projector's image onto the wall to figure out what screen size and placement they'd like best, he's come to the conclusion that they would enjoy a larger image than originally anticipated. They're now thinking a fixed frame screen around 165 inches would be really nice. That would be really nice. And he's looked at Elite Screens and Silver Ticket. Are there any others he should be considering?
So I definitely want to address it, because originally they were still going to keep a flat panel on the front wall, and then he asked if he could have a screen that's, extended, like mounted to the wall, but extended out. So we suggested the L brackets, so that the screen could come down in front. Oh, right. And he was saying, so from his seat to the TV is about 11 feet. And then we're thinking, well, that's going to end up being about 10 feet with the screen being in front of the flat panel.
Right.
So I was at the time suggesting like a 120-inch screen, because that from 10 feet away is still a big viewing area. And he was like, oh, maybe 135. So now they're thinking, take down the flat panel, have the screen just a fixed frame screen that's on the wall. It's going to be their only display. So that means they're back to probably a little bit more than an 11-foot viewing distance now.
Right.
And he's like, okay, so we just projected up onto the wall, and 165 inches is about where they landed. I can't feel good about wholeheartedly recommending a 165-inch screen with the 5040 UB.
Oh, because of how much light output.
Yeah, you're gonna have to use the high lamp output mode.
Right.
If you were in a Batcave theater, it can do it. That's not the concern. It's just you're definitely not Batcave scenario, and you're gonna have to use the high lamp mode. And like 135 and the 5040 UB go together like peas and carrots. All right, so 135-inch screen is really, really nice for the 5040 UB for its light output capabilities. 150 is doable, but 165...
He already bought this projector, right?
Yeah, he's already bought the projector.
Okay.
You're really starting to push it. So there's a couple of easy things. I'm like, 165 from a little over 11 feet away. I'm like, that is a big field of view.
Right.
So I wonder if just the awe of seeing this huge image at first seems really cool and impressive, but if you actually lived with it for any length of time, you might start going, I am finding myself tired after watching because I have to actually turn my head to take in the sides of the screen.
The thing that bothers me, and I think people think that my screen is too big. I'm sitting about, I don't know how far away from a 92
inch.
92 inch, right? But not about 85 to 90% of the screen I can easily see without me having to adjust my focus or turn my eyes in any way, shape, or form. If something pops in the very top left or right corner of the screen, I might have to look at it versus everything else. I mean, I'll still see it. I can still see it, but I'm not. It's not like
it'd be peripheral.
It's more of a peripheral thing. How much of this 165-inch screen is peripheral for you? Because that is going to get old real quick.
Sometimes when this happens, right? When you're first looking at it's so cool. It fills my whole field of view.
Yeah.
But when you actually go to watch a movie like that, it's frustrating. It's annoying.
Yeah, you're
it's too much.
Right. You suddenly realize that they tend to block or frame the shots. Block because I theater, but not acting. But not cinema. They tend to frame the shot so that one person is on one side of the screen, another person on the other side of the screen when they're going back and forth and talking.
Yeah.
And you're like going like this, like you're a tennis match watching this movie. It's gonna drive you nuts. So
I would urge you to maybe reevaluate, because you got the projector, so you can go ahead, throw the image, and maybe reevaluate. But really, I can't feel good about recommending anything larger than 150 inches to go along with the 5040 UP. If you can get down to 135 and be satisfied, I'm like, that's the butter zone for that projector. So I'm just putting it out there because I want to give the advice that I would want to receive. So
I mean, he might be able to return the projector if he really wants 165. What projector should he get?
I mean, he'd end up having to keep the price at the same price or lower. You'd have to end up giving up all the wide color gamut and 4K compatibility, because you'd go to like the 3700 or something, light Canon,
right?
That would do it, but then it's just straight 1080p.
1080p, right?
There's nothing extra about it. So
it's a little loud. But it's right next to a ceiling fan anyway, so maybe it's going to be loud anyway.
It'd be unfortunate. I'm saying reevaluate, because I think you might discover 165 is actually larger than you'd genuinely like to live with for every. It's going to be your only display, so you got to be really happy with it.
Yeah. Oh, and you can't get motion sickness if your display is too big. Clint sits too close to a very large display, and when we used to play Gears of War and Left 4 Dead and stuff like that, I would call him and say, "Dude, you want to play?" He'd say, "Yeah, hold on, I'm going to take some Dramamine."
Yeah.
He took Dramamine every time he played Xbox with me.
Between Elite Screens and Silver Ticket, I don't think you have to look further. I mean, you're not going to find something in the same price range that's any better than the offerings from those two. So,
if you were looking for a very specific type of screen or or masking or something like that, I might point you towards Seymour AV, something like that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
You're just looking for a fixed frame screen, this is the way to go. Fixed frame and these two companies, they're just so inexpensive and good quality, it's hard to go anywhere else. So he says many of the screens, Silver Tickets in particular, are currently listed as out of stock. Is that just because of the time of year with Cydia coming up? Are new products about to be launched? If so, is there an optimal time of year that you should wait so that you can get a great close-out deal on a screen?
Silver Ticket just has all their stuff manufactured in China, so they get them in boat containers, and when that container is empty, they got to wait for the next container, and they're just in between containers at the moment.
We don't actually know that, but that's what we think, because we know a lot of manufacturers that mysteriously have lots of stuff, and then they run out, and 2 months later, suddenly they have lots of stuff again. It's not like they build a backlog. If they could build them on demand, they would. But what happens is nobody gets nothing for 3 months, and then all of a sudden everybody gets everything.
Yeah,
that probably showed up off a ship from China. So that's why that they're out of stock, and they will be back again.
Screens aren't changing a ton from year to year on a Cydia type thing. It's not like projectors, which
especially not Cydia. I mean, Cydia is it's an installer show, so the screens they're going to be showing off are light rejecting screens and the stuff that you can put inside of a showroom to do stuff.
And the $20,000 4-way masking screens and stuff like that.
Stuff that you're going to be selling to really high end, and high end installers are going to be selling to.
Not Silver Ticket. That's not,
Silver Ticket's not waiting for Cydia to roll out their brand new screen technology. That's not what's happening. So would the light output be different if you place the projector as close to the screen as possible and uses the lens's widest setting versus placing the projector farther back and using the telephoto end of the lens zoom range?
Yes.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. So you don't want to get. I mean, that's kind of what Rob's talking about already, right? You're trying to make a very big picture with this thing, and it's only got so much light output, and if it's 165 inches, your light output's just not going to be enough to give you everything that you want. You can help offset that by putting it closer, but then you're going to limit the amount of screen size that you can do. And like Rob's about to tell you, the closer you get, the less light you have to have in order to get the same amount of output.
Yeah, with these projectors that have zoom lenses, definitely some of the light is the light output is reduced. The farther back you put the projector, the more you go to the telephoto end of the lens. It does reduce the light output, sometimes as much as 40% from the most to the least, which is a huge amount when you think about it. These days, most of the time, even with these long 2-to-1 zoom lenses like the Epson has, it's about a quarter. So you lose about a quarter of the light if you put it as far back. So screen size stays the same, but you have the projector as close as it can be to create given screen size, and then as far as it can be to create given screen size. At the farthest end, it'll be about 25% less bright than at its closest. So, yeah, right. It's considerable.
So he also picked up a Samsung Ultra HD Blu-ray player, the K8500. If he is playing a 1080p disc, though, should he have the player do the 4K upscaling, or should his projector handle that? And what settings would you have to change to make either of those things happen? Now, I'll address it from a more overall standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you looked at the manual. I did not have a chance to look at the manual.
I did.
So, what you generally want to do is have your up conversion done at the place where it's done the best. Okay? Whatever scaling that you're going to do, you should have it be done by the thing that has the best scalers. So where would that be? Well, you're going to have to kind of do a little bit of research, generally speaking. You're going to look at reviews of the source, reviews of your receiver, if it has upscaling capability, which almost all the time, that's not going to be a good idea. And then reviews of the display, whatever your display might be, to see what scaler it has. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, your source, if it's a Blu-ray player or something like that, would be the place to do that. Now, if you decide that you want to do it someplace else, you have it put out. You just have to do some sort of setting on the inside. Look for like native or scaling none or something, that you can select to make it put out just whatever's on the disc comes out, and then you set wherever that other thing is to do the scaling for you. And if that's between your display and not, if it's before your display, then what your display should get is what its native resolution is. In this case, it would be 4K for you.
Yeah, in the case of this particular player, though, you have the option of just setting it at 1080p, which means even Ultra HD Blu-rays would get downscaled to 1080p. So clearly you wouldn't want to leave it there all the time, but that would force it to output 1080p when you're playing a regular Blu-ray, which would then force your 5040UB to do its upscaling, which is wobble K, so it's taking 1080p and then wobbling the panel. So that's what it's doing. You can also force it to just output 2160p at all times, which means the player will always be upscaling any disc that it's playing. But honestly, the setting you want to use with this combination of this Samsung Ultra HD Blu-ray player and the 5040UB is auto. You want to use auto because the 5040UB, while it can accept a 4K resolution signal, it can accept 4K at 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second, but not at 60 frames per second.
Yeah, so you have to basically tell the player to talk to the projector and say, "What do you want from me?" And it's like, "Give me the good stuff. Give me the 30p because I can't take the 60."
Don't give me 60 is the thing. So if you set it to 2160p as the output, that could create a problem.
Right.
It might not, but it might. So honestly, you just want to leave the Samsung Ultra HD Blu-ray player at auto for the resolution output. It'll look fine. Honestly, the video scaling between the two of them is comparable. It'd be really hard to tell them apart.
I mean, even 5 years ago when I was doing display reviews, or it may even be longer than that, it was getting to the point where it was pointless to go through the scale, all the scaling tests, the HQV tests, and all the stuff that we used to do. It was just like everything did everything except for the weird cadence stuff.
Yeah, super weird stuff. But yeah, I mean, in this case, you just want to make sure the signal is always going to be compatible between the two devices. So just leave the Samsung at auto. That is really the best setting.
Yeah. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.